Welcome back after the break. Today, as you know, we're talking about American-Spanish relations. And first, we're going to introduce a few of the domestic issues nowadays in Spain. Obviously, coronavirus right now, it's all over politics, but before that, there was a political agenda in Spain, and it was quite dynamic. I'm already anticipating that most likely, by the end of the course, I'm going to do a session on coronavirus on both sides of the Atlantic and the response on both sides of the Atlantic. And it's also going to be interesting for you to understand and to see how the European Union has operated in this issue and the importance of the European Union in this case. And actually, this is an independent issue, but well, we'll get to that when the time comes. So, talking about Spanish domestic politics, actually, the Spanish domestic policies were deeply affected by what happened in the summer of 2018. And it was the first time in our history that a president was voted down by parliament on a vote of no confidence. And Mariano Rajoy, the person you see in that picture, he was voted down because of corruption scandal in his party, because of illegal financing of the party. And he lost office on behalf of that guy that is waving his hand there, that is Pedro Sanchez. Pedro Sanchez was elected president of the government. However, because of his inability to pass a budget in 2019, he called for snap elections. The first election were in the spring of 2019. The parliament resulting of those elections was not capable of forming a government, a stable government. So we voted again on November the 10th. After November the 10th, the results of the elections are the ones that you see over there. Partido Socialista Obrero Español, the left-wing party, was the one winning the election with 120 seats, and they were able to form a coalition government with a left-wing party that is Unidas Podemos, that you can see in purple there, with 35 seats and the support of other political parties. So we have a new government in Spain that only took office in January this year. So it's a very recent government. Coming out of the November elections. So obviously that's the main issue right now in the Spanish politics. What else is also important in Spanish politics? The state of the economy. You know that the economic crisis, and we mentioned this already in class when we talked about the economy, Spain was particularly hit by the economic crisis. We had to bail our bank system. Actually, the state had to provide with 41 billion euros for the bank system to resist. We had to merge several banks because of how many toxic assets they had. Spanish economy was exposed to housing almost more than any other economy in the world. And actually, that's why our banking system struggled so much, because they did not have any cash flow. They had a lot of assets of people actually unable to pay their mortgages, defaulting the mortgages, and obviously the banks absorbed all of these toxic assets and they were unable to put them back in the market. 2013, we had 26% unemployment, which is unbearable for any country in the world, but that's the case. However, the situation is improving and has been improving ever since. Since 2015, we've been growing steadily. 2015 we grew, if I remember well, 3.8 this year. 2019 grew around 2%. So it was a steady growth. Right now, however, 2020, as any other country in the world, is not going to be the case, and it's going to be quite interesting how Spain recovers. Obviously, the European Union will have to play an important role there, and obviously I'm talking about coronavirus, but we'll talk about that in the class we are going to use to talk about it. What else is important is the monarchy and the role of the king in Spain, and that actually, well, is a symbol of the unity of the country. Is actually leading the armed forces in a formal way, not de facto. And his role is important also in Catalonia. Catalonia, I mean, I could spend the whole class and several classes talking about Catalonia, but I'm going to briefly explain very briefly what is happening in Catalonia. You know, Spain is a unitarian country, but it's decentralized. Spain is not a federal country as the US. Actually, Spain, after 1978, we decided to allow self-governing communities. So each region to have its own self-governing institutions. So was Catalonia, so was Andalusia, so was Madrid or Galicia. And historically, Catalonia has not been an independent country, so Catalonia was allowed autonomy within Spain. However, because of how events developed and how certain constitutional court rulings limited the powers of the Catalan government, after the people had voted for that in Catalonia and also actually in the Spanish parliament, there was a wave of pro-independence movement there. However, the pro-independence movement that is not more than 50% of the vote in Catalonia. But obviously, we do have an issue there because we have a regional government that actually is claiming for independence, and Spain is never going to give them independence. It's actually an international law principle, this survival of the state. I mean, here we're going to we're going to realist theory 100%. States are going to they need to survive, and obviously it doesn't matter whether the threat comes from the outside or the inside. The self-preservation of the state is basic. So that's the principle in international law. So the international law does not recognize the right of a region to separate from a country, and that's what plays in international law, and that what plays in international relations. So that's more or less the situation in Catalonia. I don't want to make this too long because we could keep talking about that. If we were in class, we would be further discussing this. If you're interested in this topic, actually, in the YouTube channel, you can find some videos of one of my other classes about region and nationalism in Spain. You have to know also that in Catalonia right now there are politicians that have been sentenced to jail time based on crimes that they committed while governing and misuse of public funding for calling for referendum. But well, obviously, this is something odd in a democratic regime that politicians go to jail for these kind of things. But actually, it's a criminal code what they're being applied using there. So no much more to say. I'm going to advance on this, and actually, we're going to talk about the views actually of the European Union and also of the United States on this issue. For the European Union, they've always considered this an internal matter for Spain, following the principle that I was just mentioning of survival of state. No other country in Europe is going to recognize the possibility of a Catalan independence. Why? Not only because this will affect Spain, but also because it could set a precedent for any other country in the European Union. There are other countries as Italy, as Germany, as the Netherlands that also have regions with a national feeling that eventually could claim independence, and they do not want this to happen. Also, the United States, Donald Trump has positioned himself on this issue, and actually, there's a fantastic video of the press conference between Donald Trump and Mariano Rajoy on YouTube, when Trump is saying that Catalonia is an integral part of Spain and the United States support the Spanish government constitutional measure to keep Spain strong and united. And then he says that Spain is a great country and so on. You can imagine what kind of press conference that was. So by the end of the day, any other country is considering Catalonia an internal affair of Spain and is not going to intervene. In the current relations between the US and Spain, obviously counterterrorism plays a big role. After September 11 attacks in 2001, Spain was the next country to be hit by Al-Qaeda, and this was in 2004. Almost 300 people died in terrorist attacks, and the picture you can see there of bombs blasting in trains. And actually, the attacks were not as terrible as they were expected because they were all meant to blast at the same time inside a train station of Atocha and collapsing the station. However, the timing, actually, the trains were late and they were not in Atocha. So, fortunately, that saved lives. But from that time, Spain and the US started cooperating, and obviously before they did already, but from this time, even more closely cooperating in counterterrorism. And Spain has potential, has relevance because of its relation with Morocco. The ties between Spain and Morocco are strong, and Morocco is a strong intel source for Spain, and obviously this also results in a strong intel source for the United States. And this is what I was mentioning about Morocco and Spain. Actually, the first state visit that any president of the government makes from Spain is to Rabat to visit the King of Morocco. What else actually is, when we talk about the Spanish strategic aims, the United States is always there. And obviously we have other issues, obviously the European Union and also Latin America are also important, but the United States is always a core, is also always a central part of the relations of the Spanish foreign policy. Is what we're saying there. If you check the Spanish Foreign Affairs Ministry, we say that the United States are a friend, an ally, and a partner that is basic to Spain. How is it basic? We cooperate in defense. I've already mentioned that we share military bases in Spanish soil. We have Moron, that is very close to Sevilla, but we also have Rota as well, south to the southwest, that is even larger and even more important. Okay, this is Rota. And what else? Economic ties. We've mentioned already economic ties between both sides of the Atlantic, and between Spain and the US. Obviously, Spain is not is actually the fourth largest economy right now in the European Union, behind Italy, France, and Germany. And this is relevant for the US. Obviously, the US is more relevant for Spain than Spain is to the US. And actually, the relations have strengthened over the last decade. For Spain, the US is the main non-European trading partner. um, Obviously Germany and France are bigger. And actually, foreign direct investment in Spain is 67 billion, so quite relevant. We are now familiar with this term. How are we? How is foreign direct investment flowing between both countries? Actually, for Spain, for example, Spain just won another contract in the U.S. to build a high-speed train in Texas. I think it's between Houston and Dallas. But that's another contract that went to a Spanish company, to a Spanish train company. So there are several aspects between both that make both economies quite connected quite closely. However, obviously we mentioned this, we are kind of in the trade war, and Spain was targeted by the last tariff that Donald Trump imposed. Is actually talked about more agricultural products, and when we talk about agriculture in the European Union, Spain is a key player here. So overall, how are the relations between the US and Spain right now? Obviously, they're solid. It is the same that we mentioned when we talked about the American-European relations in general. Even though there might be issues, there might be frictions, but by the end of the day, we are strategic partners. We share a vision. Our morality might be slightly different in terms of foreign policy, also because of the resources and capabilities that we both have. But by the end of the day, the relations between the US and Spain are strong, they're solid. So I hope you have a good day. I'll see you again on Wednesday, and we're going to be talking about Brexit, quite an interesting topic nowadays. So see you guys.